Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to welcome you all to this wonderful Colloquium. And in this occasion, we would like to have presentations from our special panelists, Professor Dr. Lisan Zender and Ibu Sidratun Naim, PhD. Before the presentation begins, allow me to introduce you, the panelists. The first would be Professor Lisan Zender. She studied psychology at Humboldt University in Berlin, and University of Santa Barbara, and California State University, Northridge, before obtaining her doctorate degree and habilitation at French University in Berlin. She is now full professor for empirical education research at Leibniz University, Hanover, in Germany, where she also serves as Dean of Studies at the Faculty of Humanities. In her research, she examines causes of educational inequalities, particularly those rooted in people's belongingness to, identification with, and categorizations into social groups, examples gender or ethnicity based. Her goal is to translate these insights into concrete strategies and intervention programs, promoting disadvantaged students' academic development in school and universities. Let me introduce the second panelist, Ibu Sidratun Naim, PhD. She was born in Sukoharjo in 1979. She is the director of the Center for Sustainable Aquaculture and Pathology Studies. And she was a research scientist at Harvard Medical School. She received her bachelor's degree from Bandung Technology Institute and her master's degree in marine studies from Australia's Queensland University under an Australian Development Scholarship. She is one of the 2009 recipients of the L'Oreal UNESCO for Women in Science Awards in Indonesia and a 2010 recipients of the Schlamberger Foundation Faculty for the Future Award. Ibu Sidratun Naim, PhD, teaches in BBA and MBA program at IPMI, International Business School. And I would like to give to each of our panelists 30 minutes for presentation. So let's welcome our panelists by inviting first Professor Lesan Zender to deliver her speech. Professor Zender, the time is yours.
Mas Fadlan, tolong dibantu Prof. Zender as the co-host.
Tes. Okay, Professor Lisan Zender, please unmute.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Now I can unmute myself. Thank you for the kind introduction, and I'm very, very happy and grateful for you inviting me to talk about some of the research that I've been doing in the past years. First of all, I would also like you thank you, the committee, but also Maila Rajem for inviting me to this. We had fantasized that I could be in Indonesia with you right now, which is not possible. I feel like almost there, but yeah, I'm here in beautiful Hanover, and yeah, maybe next time. I still hope for this. Okay, so let me share my presentation and then get into the talk. So let's see if that works. Okay. Sorry about taking a bit of the time here. Not. Sorry. Can you see my screen now?
Yes,
yes?
I can see it clearly.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
So I was thinking a long time about what I could present here. And I finally decided to talk about a topic that I deeply care about, which is help seeking. It might sound a little trivial at first, but I hope to convince you today that it's a topic that we should all think about and that we need to better understand. So the research that I am presenting today is research that I've conducted with two other people, Elizabeth Höhne, who is a PhD at my department, and Ai Chen Chen, who is postdoc at Michigan State University. I went to a wonderful concert with my husband in Hamburg, and the musician Matthew Herbert was playing with his Brexit Big Band Orchestra. And the Brexit Big Band Orchestra is composed of many different musicians from all over the world. And Matthew Herbert performed one song that had the title "No Man is an Island." It's a line by John Donne. Okay, it's a line by John Donne, and Matthew Herbert said before introducing or before starting the song that he is convinced that none of his current projects, his music, his style, his spirits would have happened without the countless collaborators, helpers from other cultures, from backgrounds with very distinct and different ideas and experiences. So he says he is himself the product of many, many different voices, and he tries to live that in his music. And this deeply resonated with me and my thoughts. When I submitted my PhD thesis, I put one quote at the very top of the whole 400-page thing, and it's a quote by Bertolt Brecht, and this is a famous German writer, and he said, "Everyone needs help from everyone." This is an experience that I had when I did my PhD. Although I wrote the whole thing myself, I was very aware that all the thoughts, all the methods, all the theories are basically also the work of other people that is reflected in my own work. And I indeed needed help of many different people to be able to do that. So why am I saying this? To introduce that, because it's not that easy with help seeking. I feel that everyone needs it, and still it's sometimes very hard to admit that. But we know from educational research that academic help seeking is indeed a very, very valuable self-regulatory strategy. And that has been described since about 20 years, 2 decades now. And this has changed. Before that, help seeking was seen as rather, a sign of someone being not competent enough to solve the problems themselves. But now we know that help seeking, actually adaptive help seeking, is linked to a variety of positive educational outcomes in a variety of subjects and domains. Many researchers have shown that. But still, help seeking has an image problem, it seems. Why is that the case? There has been very interesting research by Aryeh Nadler from Israel, who found that help seeking can, or just imagining to ask for help, can appear as a loss of status or esteem. If I ask someone, I admit to the other person that I cannot solve the problem by myself. And most of the time, we also fear that asking someone for help could be perceived as a sign of incompetence. And we even feel threatened by asking another person. Maybe this other person thinks that I'm not smart enough, or maybe I even confirm the low expectations that others might have of me. And that is why we are probably often very reluctant to seek help. And I actually would like, or I wanted to ask, if that is a German problem, or whether that is maybe also a phenomenon that you could relate to in Indonesia. And maybe you can write in the chat so that I get an idea. Can you relate with this phenomenon, or is this, do you think, a purely German problem? I'm gonna look into the chat to see maybe someone can give me some impulses here. Maybe I was afraid that if the talk is going to be recorded, no one will interact with me, because everyone is afraid to be recorded. Maybe that's another research question. So I hope you can write something later or after the talk. I don't want to force you, of course, here. I just, maybe looking at your faces, I saw that some of these thoughts resonated with you. Okay, so apart from cultural differences that could be there or could not be there, we will learn that later. I have observed in Germany that there seem to be differences in help seeking in different study domains and cultures. So when I am teaching, I'm teaching mostly in educational sciences. When I'm doing research, I often also do research in so-called STEM domains, so science, technology, engineering, math domains, so where there is typically different topics. How can I move here? And what I see when I do the research or when I teach are typically these pictures, right? In educational sciences, there is a lot of women who are, when I come in the breaks, talking, exchanging material. That's what I see. When I go into the computer science, I see a picture like that, everyone sitting on their own desk, like looking to their computer. Of course, also a lot of males. I also saw that there is a larger male share in the computer sciences in Indonesia. So that's what I observed. And I was thinking, maybe this is a systematic thing. Maybe there is a difference in these different domains when it comes to help seeking. So what I would like to present today is a few preliminary answers for these three research questions. The first question, does help seeking have an image problem? Academic help seeking have an image problem? The second question, how do social contextual cues relate to help seeking strategies? And I will explain in a second what I mean by that. And the third question is, how do female students help seeking strategies differs in these two domains? So with social contextual cues, I mean, what is the different environment, for instance, a STEM environment or an educational science environment, or a positive climate or a positive energy in a specific course or seminar related to help seeking. Okay, let's start with the first question. Does help seeking have an image problem, particularly in STEM? Why would I think that? Why would I argue that that may be the case? STEM environments, as you may all know, particularly stress the importance of talent over effort for successful performance. In education, I think that the majority of the conference attendees here are from educational sciences. Mela, is that right? So in education, we all are trained to believe in change, to believe in progress in the way that we can work with students, we can improve their performance, and that's not a fixed thing. In STEM education, often there's the idea that if you are not excellent and brilliant and very, very talented in STEM, you cannot make it, in spite of efforts. So that could be an environment where help seeking can actually really signal a lack of talent. Because if you're expected to have that in advance, or even if you come in, then help seeking is really a sign of incompetence because you cannot solve the problem yourself. So if that is the case, then help seeking should be less likely in general there. And it should be visible in less adaptive help seeking strategies. And what I also thought, in maybe less dense help seeking networks in general. And I will explain that in a second. The second question was, how do social contextual cues relate to help-seeking strategies? What do I mean by that? A classroom peer climate. If you have attended a seminar or taught a seminar, you know that the peer climate or the atmosphere differs in every seminar. There's seminars where you come in and you feel like, oh, there's lively exchange, people like each other, they're very constructive in their exchange. And there's others where people are very quiet or rather competitive. So classroom peer climate can differ very much. And it's something that people feel immediately and that they sense in their environment. And it's defined as the collective interpersonal relationships among students. And this climate also involves the perception that you can either rely on others for support or not. If you have a very positive climate in a seminar, it's easy, probably easy to ask for help or little advice rather than where there's an atmosphere where it's very strict and individual. So if that is the case, then if there's a positive climate, then there should be less of these expectations of a negative fallout when you're asking for help, or you may be less fearing that others will reject your asking for help. So if there is a very positive exchange climate, there should be less avoidance of help seeking. That is the idea here. So now the third question that I would like to answer in a bit is, how does female students help seeking differ in STEM versus HEAT? So there is a few females in STEM. There is many female students in HEAT. So what is the difference there? There is a negative performance-related stereotype towards women in STEM. And I believe that this is even stronger in Germany. Unfortunately, here there's a general stereotype that females are not as good in domains as mathematics or physics or science, wrongly so, because their actual performances are very, very good. So that is a self-stereotype that is applied. And we know from research that female students feel a very chilly climate in STEM. They are somewhat threatened by the competitive and unsupportive weed out culture of introductory courses in STEM. And they could also think that if they lack the brilliance due to the stereotype that their male fellow students have, they should perceive help seeking even more risky than in other domains. So also help seeking should be particularly difficult if you do not want to confirm the stereotype that you as a woman are not good enough to be in STEM, and therefore you refrain from asking help altogether, which is a problem because we earlier heard that help seeking is very important to progress. It's a legitimate self-regulatory strategy that helps you progress. And if that is the case, females have a disadvantage here because they're feeling threatened in a domain. So if they may be more likely to avoid help seeking if that is the case. Let's take a look at the hypotheses that we derived from the research. So overall, hypothesis 1, overall, students should show less adaptive help-seeking strategies in STEM versus education, if that is the case. Then we would think if there's a particular image problem of help seeking in STEM, the academic help networks for students should be less dense in computer science versus education. Then, if you remember the context cues with a positive climate, if there's a positive exchange climate, there should be more adaptive help-seeking strategies. And we will look at that in computer science and education. Also, if there's a higher density of people exchanging networks, many students can ask many other students in a seminar, then this should relate to even more positive adaptive help-seeking strategies among students. And then finally, the third hypothesis, females in STEM should show less adaptive help-seeking strategies in STEM versus education. So what did we do? We conducted a cross-sectional study with a sample of 480 university students in different seminars with 200 computer science students, the majority of which was, of course, male. Then we had 280 education students, the majority of which was, of course, female. The mean age was about 22 years. And we measured help-seeking strategies, exclusion, academic self-efficacy, perceived exchange climate, help networks, importantly, I will talk about this in a second, and academic performance. And we ran simple linear regression analyses and also considered the nested data structure because students were in different seminars. Okay, so these are the measures. We applied questionnaires, and for instance, to measure autonomy-oriented help-seeking, we asked students to respond to the statement. For instance, when I encounter a subject-specific problem in this seminar or tutorial, I ask other students who have had a similar problem how they solved it and try to learn from their experience. So if I agree to that, or very much agree to that, I have a strong autonomy-oriented help-seeking strategy. If I say it is more important for me to accomplish things on my own, even if it would be, I would be better off receiving help from other students, that would be a sign of help-seeking avoidance. So we ask students this, for example. Then we asked students to report their academic self-efficacy, and we asked students to report their classroom academic exchange climate. For instance, in this seminar, there is a good exchange of relevant materials for the preparation of assignments, exams, and so forth. So now the network stuff. That's the fancy stuff I really like. So we asked students to indicate the people who they would ask for help and advice if they had an academic problems. We use cover names, so it's all anonymous. But what's happening is that we then get the networks of the students' help, students' help networks in all the different classrooms. And then you see, for instance, in this network here, there's one student who receives many nominations. Yeah, it's a very popular helper. Everyone wants to ask them for help. And there's people who receive less nominations. And when they receive many nominations, then they're very popular in the help network. If they do not ask others for help, for instance, that's another sign for help-seeking avoidance, right? If you would not nominate another person. So that's the out degree, what we call out degree, asking others for help. Then there's network density. You could also measure, if you have that network in the classroom, how many links are there between students overall. And if there is like very few nominations, then this is called a low density. And if there's many nominations, like in this class here, for instance, then that's a high density help network. And we can calculate the network density for each seminar, and the values range then from 0 with no connections to 1, everyone asks everyone for help. Okay, now let's look at the results. Question 1, does help-seeking have an image problem in STEM? And you see here, autonomy-oriented help-seeking and avoidance. And you see that in computer science, compared to education, there is significantly less autonomy-oriented help-seeking. Yes, so people are less report that they would ask others for help and turn to them for advice. We also see here that students in computer science clearly report more help-seeking avoidance in computer science compared to education. That difference is also, as you see here, very clear and significant. Let's look at the density of the help-seeking networks in computer science and education. And here you also see a big difference already in these 2 example networks. You see very few connections in the computer science. It's okay, but it's not too great. And in education, you see many connections. What you also see here, these are the different students. There's people who are not part of the network at all. And what you also see here is a strong gender segregation. Yes, the the squares are the boys and the circles are the girls, and you see that there's only help seeking among or boys. I shouldn't say boys, there are men by that age. I also do research in school, so I switched this. You also see, though, in education that the boys are, or the men are very nicely included in the help networks of the women. All right, so let's look at the density of the help-seeking networks. And again, you see that in computer science, the networks are significantly less dense compared to education. This being said, let's turn to question 2. How do social contextual cues relate to help-seeking strategies? How does the climate change or relate to help-seeking? And what you see here is that in both computer science and education, a positive help exchange climate, a positive atmosphere predicts more autonomy-oriented help-seeking and less avoidance. So this is important news, not only in education, but also in computer science. If students feel that there is a positive climate among students, they ask more for help in an adaptive way, and they less avoid help seeking. So this is has very strong implications for us. And the other thing is that we looked at the density of the networks and looked how that relates to help-seeking strategy. And here we found that only in education, but not in computer science, denser help networks predicted more adaptive help-seeking. We didn't find an effect for avoidance. So now the final question, how do female students help-seeking strategies differ? You see here, help-seeking avoidance for, male students and female students in computer science here. And you see there's no difference at all between them. They avoid help-seeking similarly. But if you look at female students in computer science and education, you see that female students in computer science much more avoid help-seeking than in education. Yeah, so there is a contextual difference here. And now let's look at the outgoing nominations. You remember the out degree, how many people you nominate, and you see there's very few outgoing nominations in computer science for both male and female students. And you also see that in educational science, there's much more, significantly more outgoing nominations compared to female students in the computer science. So that is not great news, but that also gives us a very important ways to intervene. Generally, didn't find any gendered help-seeking patterns, but we found overall less adaptive help-seeking in computer science and education. Why is that? We need to find out. We need to find out in future research. Why does it matter? It strongly matters because help-seeking and not being included, not being a part, is strongly related to student dropout. We also know that female are more engaged if they feel in their context they can indulge their social goal orientation. What we also learned that there appears to be a Matthew effect. So if there's more positive climate already, then people will be even more positively asking for help, form even more adaptive help relations to their peers. So if it's already good, then it gets better. The problem is, how do we get out of situation where this is not the case? So now we're doing a big research project right now where we want to find out how can positive exchange climate be fostered in seminars and classrooms in both education and STEM. And I have I had hoped that we could discuss about this, but I'm afraid the time is over. So I'm very, very happy if you send me some information or thoughts on how the situation is in Indonesia. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to questions if we have time.
Thank you very much, Professor Zender, for your excellent presentations. Let's give a big round of applause to Professor Zender. The next speaker would be Ibu Sidratun Naim, who is also going to speak about the same topic, religion, science, technology, and future sustainability. Yeah. Ibu Sidratun Naim, the time is yours.
Thank you, Professor Asep. Usep Abdul Matin. I think I have to greet all my teachers here because I'm also a student at UIN Syarif Hidayatullah. Professor Asep, I think thank you for inviting me. Also Dr. Hamka, Dr. Arif Samhari, Dr. Imam Sujoko, because I took at least one knowledge from them, like one class. Also, very good morning, Professor Zender, and also my co-author, Febi Wijayanto. Also, last but not least, my friends, my colleagues, like students at UIN Syarif Hidayatullah, Romo Hendrik, Mbak Miftahul Huda, Kang Deden, Ustadzah Rina Bahren, Pak Bahrun, and Pak Rahmadi. I'm sorry if I miss anyone. So my talk today on the topic of science, modernization, and also sustainability. Yes. So this is like a co-author with Febi Wijayanto from Erlangga University. This is about 3 Muslim Nobel laureate in science, and specifically in science, the legacy of redefining the nexus of Islam and modernity. Why I chose this topic? Because usually when we discuss about science, technology in the Muslim history, Muslim civilization, we always refer to the golden age, and we do not pay real attention to what's happening at this moment. The contribution of Muslim scientists to the globalization, modernization, and civilization of the 21st century. This is originally a paper in a class by the late Professor Azumardi Azra, and I was fortunate because he gave many feedback to the original writing, and he encouraged me to publish in a paper, and I haven't done what he said to me. So I hope we all learn from him, and Allah give him the best paradise or Jannah. At this moment, other than like being a faculty in a business administration school, the field that I have never been trained in the business or management, but I'm currently teaching like business ethics, leadership at a business school. But I'm also a scientist. That's like my core expertise for cek kolam. This is like specifically for fish and shrimp health, and the field that I did my PhD. Because this is also the challenge for Indonesia and many Muslim countries, many tropical countries, that the livelihood mainly based in the fisheries. And because of the COVID, the Minister of Health of Indonesia also asked my service as his expert staff, specifically for biomedical genomics. And I'm also, like very humble to serve for the Pengurus Besar Nahdlatul Ulama, the largest organization, like Muslim organization in Indonesia, as the Deputy Secretary General. I think I need to mention these identities because they are all part of me, even though my main lens is as a scientist, but I cannot deny that I have received many influences from a different field. And I'm so glad that today I share a screen with Professor Zender, because actually I prepared this even before I knew I would meet a German. You know, like on the left, this is my last week in the US. I spent like 7 years in the US, and the last week I met her student, like Anne-Marie Simmer student, and also the one who continue the professorship at the Harvard Divinity School, Professor Ali Asani. And he gave me many stories about his teacher, including asked me to visit this portrait hanging in one of the room at the Harvard housing. And I even call, you know, like the painters. The painters, of course, he is an American, a professional painter. And he shared with me a story that, you know, he always paint someone right in front of him. This is the only painting, you know, like when he only received a photo. So he spent time, a kind of spiritual exercise, and he told me, this is very, very unique picture because, you know, he has to be very disciplined. Many miracles and magics happen during, you know, the painting. And of course, Anne-Marie Simmer, she was very famous, like a professor of Indo-Muslim culture at Harvard. And I remember like one of the most important line in her autobiography. She referred to the work from Suhrawardi, Sheikh Al-Ishraq. So she mentioned Al-Ghurba Al-Ghurbiya, the Western exile of the soul. Of course, she acknowledged, you know, like the civilization of German and all identities attached to her. But her main interest is like in Turkey and also the Urdu culture, the Pakistan, the India. That's why even for the inauguration, the, you know, like the gown that she is wearing in this picture, actually from Turkey. She received from one university from Turkey. She didn't choose, you know, the gown from Harvard or maybe from Bonn, but the one from Turkey because it is very important for her. On the right, this is like Karen, or at least last year, you know, like the innovator who gave birth to a BioNTech vaccine, both with Turkish origin, and they are in Germany at this moment. So this is like two pictures, but have some overlap. I think from these two pictures, we can learn that both the East and the West, Islam and Western, we all contribute to the advancement of science and knowledge. And in terms of conceptualizing Islam and modernity, I use 4 different lenses, like the Islam, the West, and modernity, and also the intellectualism. Because in Islam, we have, you know, a part of modernity and also intellectualism. Yeah, not only from the West, even though the concept of modernity is in the West, but it doesn't mean Islam never experienced modernity. We just use different words. And during the golden civilization, that's like already in the Islamic culture. So we use the interpretive paradigm, like to analyze the 3 Nobel laureates that I mentioned at the beginning. The individuals, of course, the Nobel laureate, they are individuals, how they respond to modernity and the identities attached to them, like from Egypt, from Turkey, from Pakistan, and how they give the meanings, and then how the meanings give them like social interaction, because it is through the meaning, you know, we interact with one another. And of course, it also involves dynamics process that we need to interpret very, very carefully. In terms of analysis, the 3 Nobel laureates, I will mention to them one by one after this. Professor Abdus Salam from Pakistan, Professor Ahmed Ziwel from Egypt, and Professor Aziz Sanjar from Turkey. 3, all of them, they have the awareness of history and civilization, and not only refer to Islam, but also the nations, like the nation of Pakistan, or maybe before India, the nation of Turkey with the great civilization, and also Egypt, even an older civilization. They always mention in many writing, you know, how they proud to be part of this civilization. And then also 3 of them have interest in science from the very beginning, when they're still a childhood. I think if you want to create more scientists from the Muslim world, we need to follow at some point the point in this slide. And they also receive family support. For example, Aziz Sanjar mentioned his mother is the strongest support for him, even though they are not from, like the elite, not from the middle upper class. But the mother understood very well the importance of education. Ahmed Ziwel and Abdul Salam, they are from middle upper. That's why they have very good education. But Aziz Sanjar is a little bit different. And of course, also the social, cultural, and political dynamics. They have to receive support from the local authority because otherwise they couldn't get, like the best education. For example, again, Sanjar mentioned he appreciated Kemal Atatürk because during his time in Turkey, even until the villages, they received very good education, and it didn't happen before. In terms of intellectual maturity, the writings from the three scientists mention not only about human-to-human interaction, but also how human and science interact, and also human and the environment. And all of this, like lead to spirituality and humanity from the perspective of scientists. The three of them, actually 3 out of 13. So until today, we have 13 Muslim Nobel laureate, at least from the Muslim culture, because some of them already became like diaspora in other countries. So Abdul Salam received the Nobel in 1979 for physics. He was 53 at that moment, and he is from Pakistan. Ahmed Ziwel from Egypt, like Egyptian American, received the Nobel in 1999 at the age of 53, like the same as Professor Abdul Salam. And the third one, Aziz Sanjar, is like a Turkish American, and he received the Nobel when he was 69 in the field of chemistry. If you see, like the origin of these 13 Nobel laureate, I don't think it is a coincidence that, like Egypt contributed 4, like Anwar al-Sadat, Naguib Mahfoud, Ahmed Ziwel, and also Muhammad al-Baradei. And then the second one, the Hindustan civilization, from Abdul Salam, and then from Muhammad Yunus, from Malala Yousafzai. And then also, like Africa being represented by Abdul Razak Gurnah, and also Yemen. And I think hopefully in the near future, we will have Nobel laureate from East Asia or Southeast Asia, because Southeast Asia is also a big part of Muslim world. I'm very optimistic. Like maybe in less than 10 years or even 5 years, we will have Nobel laureate from, from Southeast Asia countries and from the Muslim tradition. I think from this table, Malala is the youngest Nobel laureate until today, and she received in peace. So I think this is also an achievement. And I think Shirin Ebadi, she is a lawyer from Iran. She received a Nobel Prize in Peace. So in this table, like the youth and like the more experienced represented in this table, also men and women from the Muslim world, scientists, and also like scholar, like other scholar like Muhammad Yunus. This is the tombstone of Professor Abdul Salam in Pakistan. If you notice, the government of Pakistan on the date of like his death, they they didn't want the tombstone to be read as in 1979 became the first Muslim Nobel laureate. The Ahmadi Jama'i, because Professor Abdul Salam is part of Ahmadiyah, wrote the first Muslim Nobel laureate. But the Pakistani government erased, like the part where Muslim being mentioned, because at least at that time, Ahmadi is not considered as Muslim by the Pakistani government. So Abdul Salam is always mentioned by the Western as the representative of Islam. But in his country, he wasn't considered as part of the Muslim. But it was passed, I think, at this moment, they have more appreciation, the Pakistani government, for the work of Professor Abdul Salam. So Professor Abdul Salam has very, equal perspective on the contribution of East and West to the advancement of science. This is the picture from, like the Nobel ceremony, and he was very proud wearing the traditional, like traditional clothes of Pakistan and Urdu. This is part of the speech. So first he mentioned he is very proud because the courtesy of to me of being addressed in my language, Urdu, and then I will only read the red part. And he acknowledged the equal participation of the East and the West. And the third one, this is from the Quran, like the inspiration from the Quran. The deeper we seek, the more is our wonder excited. This is also the values from the Muslim scientists from the past, and it is to be the value for the Muslim scientists at this moment. And yeah, the benefit, the equality is always mentioned by him. Professor Ahmad Zewel mentioned in very similar, like atmosphere, that some of the best minds in the world are religious people. So he didn't want to separate between, like religion and science, because this is also true that some of the best minds in the world are religious people. So there is no contradictory between religion and science. And he is very proud of being an Egypt. And he mentioned about the childhood origins in Rosetta and also close to Alexandria. And he really appreciates, like the medal he received from President Hosni Mubarak, the Kiladatit El Nile, or the Grand Collar of the Nile, like the highest state honor, because it brought him the emotional boyhood days back. And he wrote, I never expected that my portrait next to the pyramid. Of course, pyramids, like represent the great civilization of Egypt. And in other part, again, this is during the Nobel speech. This means like, the peak of his career. He mentioned the Egyptian goddess of motherhood. Actually, the Nobel medal, this is like using the ICIIS or ISIS. And that's like the goddess of motherhood from Egypt. And he is very proud because he came from the same land as ISIS, like Egypt. And again, in the second paragraph, he mentioned if Nobel was being given, like 400 years ago, I think we would have more Muslim scientists to receive the Nobel, including the Egyptian. But he also noted, I also hope that the prize will help the region I came from to focus on the advancement of science, the science society, and on the dignity and peace for humanity. This is on the day of his cemetery in, his funeral in Egypt, with the highest honor given by the Egyptian government, just like a hero. This is the people from Egypt. I think this is very similar. In Indonesia, you can see, like the youth, the men and women in the same place. And I think the future, this will be the picture of the Muslim world. And the third one, Professor Aziz Sancar from Turkey. The one thing that, people always ask, because some of the history mentioned that he has not only the Turkish, but also some Iraqi, some Iraqi, but he is more proud as a Turkish, and he mentioned, I'm a Turk, and that's it. He didn't want to, to mention about other identities. And then the other time he mentioned, I'm a proud Muslim, but I cannot always express it publicly in the US, especially during, the discrimination or other thing. But actually, the same week he received the Nobel, Sancar is a scientist with strong political opinion, and his dedication of the award, he dedicated the award to Kemal Atatürk, and even, a photo presented at the Museum of Atatürk Mausoleum is a strong statement in the context of at that time, because maybe he doesn't really like, the party that ruled Turkey in 2015, and he wanted Turkey to be more like during the Kemal Atatürk time. This is a picture in United Arab Emirates. I think the future of the Muslim world, the advancement, the science, I am very optimistic. Again, Southeast Asia, Indonesia as the largest Muslim population in the world, but maybe we need to combine with like region or countries with, like better resources, I think we can lead, like the civilization from the Muslim world. Of course, Indonesia has the point. United Arab Emirates, they are more moderate. I think if we see the advancement in United Arab Emirates compared to the neighbors, let's say in Qatar or in Saudi, I think this is a great opportunity for Indonesia, and especially because our President Jokowi is very close to Sheikh Muhammad bin Zayed at this moment. Even in Abu Dhabi, there is like President Jokowi Street, and in Indonesia we have the elevated road named after Sheikh Muhammad bin Zayed. So as a conclusion, like the relationship between Islam and modernity by reviewing the three Nobel winners, Abdus Salam, Ahmed Zewail, and Aziz Sanjar, it turns out that chronicles of their thought are extremely relevant in addressing the relationship between humans and nature, which has indeed been partly so destructive if we do not, like look after our nature very carefully. The three Nobel laureates are proof that they both accept the ideas of modernity and even become a part of it, although to some degree they also criticize the modernity because of the destruction and other things. And the second one, all three clearly criticize anthropocentrism because it is more contrary to the Nobel and Islamic values. These three figures have shown how voices against exploitation of nature provide strategic insight into modernity because it concerns the safety and survival of humans themselves. And the last one, arise during the crisis. We have seen how the capitalist economic system, as a result of rooted rationalism and adopted by Western countries, is always hit by social, economic, and environmental crisis. This is like in science, you create something, it is part of the solution, but then we create another problem, and then again solution, again like problems. This is like a cycle. The existing welfare state model on Scandinavian countries, as an alternative, for example, as I mentioned, Indonesia and the partnership of Indonesia and United Arab Emirates offer a more convincing system of managing resources and social welfare in Muslim majority countries to better adopt Islamic values. I think the Scandinavian are the best countries, who practice the Islamic values in manifesting a more inclusive, just, and sustainable management of natural resources amongst the human. I think that's all from me, and I'm very happy to discuss further with the participant. Thank you, Professor Usep Abdul Martin.
You are most welcome, Ibu Sidratun Naim, PhD, and thank you very much for your excellent presentation. And please give big round of applause to Ibu Sidratun Naim, PhD. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yeah. So, all right, ladies and gentlemen, now we come to question and answer session, and there will be only one session, yeah, for three people to ask questions. Yeah. And don't forget to mention your name. Yeah. Any question, please? And I have a question from Ibu Maila, I think. She was asking, does difficulty to seek for help when having does difficulty to seek for help when having difficulty in study also happen in Indonesia? I think this question was also asked by Professor Zender, and Professor Zender was asking you all, audience, do the results match your own experiences? So I would like to invite Professor Zender and Ibu Sidratun Naim to ask us these questions. Yeah. To answer these questions. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, I can just confirm again that I would be interested in learning, but I feel that the audience it may be difficult in a hybrid situation to respond to that. Um, I'm really curious, so maybe if you feel like it, I would be very interested, and I think we could also do that via Myla Rahiem, that you send to her your responses in Indonesian, and she may be transferring it to me, and I deeply care to know whether this is whether there are cultural differences. You all may be aware of this differentiation between collectivist countries and individualist countries. I personally grew up in Eastern Germany, which is part of the former collectivist countries. And then when I was 10, I was transformed into another cultural system, becoming now a Western German, which was always a little bit difficult for me. But one of the most interesting experiences I had in my life, that I went to the same school, I had the same teachers and the same classmates. And the morning we came back to school and we were now West, the teachers were like, so now you are all on your own. We are the West now. So you have to work harder for things, and you're on your own. And immediately help exchange changed between, no one was exchanging homework anymore or other things. And that was a very strange experience for me. And after that, of course, it leveled out again, and we returned sort of to normal. But I'm saying this because I wonder whether this collectivist orientation or the individualist orientation has something to do with that help exchange and help seeking. So yeah, maybe you let me know your thoughts right
Yes.
now, or maybe after the conference. Thank you very much.
Pak Ustad?
Yeah, thank you
Yes.
very much, Professor Zender. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Pak Sabil.
Thank you. Right. So, Prof. Sorry. Just responding to the question of Professor Linz. Well, I'm quite lucky experiencing both, in Indonesia and other countries in terms of help-seeking issues. So I do believe that many Indonesians have, kind of cultural barrier to do or to have, like, seeking help from either friends or probably the supervisors if they are writing or doing a thesis. Some of the problem might be what I feel is they are afraid, or probably they are embarrassed, and probably afraid that they will be regarded as unable to cope with their study problems or their social problems. And some might believe that, or even they have tried that and they've got like a bad experience when they ask that help to their supervisors or friends with unfriendly answers. So and after that they wouldn't do that again, and that kind of a cultural experience also sometimes happen when they study in overseas. I myself, and I found some other friends also experiencing that, although I believe there is like a service in other universities. I was in Australia, and some of the friends were kind of afraid of going to the psychologist to have like this kind of professional asking for help, either socially, emotionally, or academically. So some were afraid, and some were like, you know, don't know how to ask, and so those are the things that I believe that happens for Indonesians, I suppose, if that could respond to your question. Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Yeah,
Sabil.
thank you very much. That was already very helpful. If I just very quickly may respond to this, I think that this very strongly shows that this doesn't seem to be an isolated phenomenon. And I think it also shows the big importance of teachers and professors and lecturers in being responsible to create an atmosphere where help seeking is okay, where it's a legitimate strategy to proceed and to progress and to grow academic wise, where it's not a sign of incompetence, but where it's a sign of progress and motivation, a sign of asking for help in productive ways, not in terms of, come on, give me the solution, I need it, I'm too lazy to do it myself, but can you give me a cue how to proceed right now? Can you just explain me this little thing so that I can move on by myself? If teachers manage to convey that, that would be very, very important. And I think another positive effect is that, and I think you can maybe relate to that, if you ask for help and you're being helped and the person said, oh, that was a pleasure to help you, the relationship is immediately strengthened, particularly if you get into the situation to help back. That's very a strong way to form more strong ties to other people. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Zender. Ya, silakan Pak.
Ambil teksnya dulu. Sini aja deh Pak. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Excuse me, I would like to ask to Ibu Sidratun Naim. Thank you for excellent idea for motivation our generation in educational development. I will dream to get Nobel Prize in education. Ibu Sidratun Naim give us many information, especially 3 persons in Asia to take Nobel Prize. Could an opportunity to get Nobel Prize in Islamic education? Now I found a learning theory, namely Al-Bayan learning theory. I construct this theory from Snellbaker epistemology. There are to find in new theory. The first minor theory and the last major theory. So I construct a new learning theory based in Holy Quran. 70 verses I construct this theory. I ask, what do you think, or could you get me solution for it? Thank you very much upon your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Pak, for your question. Yeah, I would like to invite Ibu Sidratun Naim to respond to the question, please.
Thank you for the question. I'm not part of the Nobel Committee, so this is like my, my personal response. But I think maybe Nobel Committee will respond differently. Because this is about Islamic education. I think the closest for you, Pak, it will be Peace Prize. Because even one scientist also received a Nobel Prize in Peace. So Linus Pauling, the greatest chemist in the 20th century, he received Nobel Prize twice. First in chemistry and the second one in peace, because he against, like the war, and he wrote from the perspective of scientists why he against war. Because we don't have Nobel category, for education, including Islamic education, or if you write in a more literature style, maybe you can get Nobel Prize in literature. Because for physics, chemistry, medicine, and economics, I don't think the field would relate, because we have very limited field for Nobel. But I think Peace Prize is an opportunity. Actually, about 5 years ago, there was an idea, like to submit Nahdlatul Ulama and Muhammadiyah as a model for, like moderate Islam. But we haven't received the Nobel Prize yet. Of course, the Nobel Committee, like have their own criteria, assessment for those who can receive the Nobel Prize. But I think maybe Professor Zender can respond, because she is the one from the education field.
Thank you, Bu Sidratun Naim. Please, Professor Zender, would you like mind giving some comments?
I don't feel really confident in that field. I'm also not part of the Nobel Prize committee. Relating this to the research that I've talked about, I would suggest that Nobel, even if you want to win a Nobel Prize, you will probably also have to need the help from many other people. But yes, this is not really my field of research, but I think the concept of growth mindsets is probably also known in Indonesia. It's the idea that intelligence, talent are not fixed things or born things, but that you can work hard on achieving things, or training your talents like muscles, basically. And I would like to put forward the idea that not only you have to have a mindset for growth, but you also have to have a mindset for needing others to succeed. And I think that's a point that I feel is not very present in today's academia, and not in the seminars. But I think we as educators have a responsibility to foster that, and we have to teach students in that way. But again, Nobel Prizes is not where I'm heading. But I wish you all the best for doing that.
Thank you very much, Professor Zender. Yeah. So, Pak Professor Asep Saifuddin Jahar, Director of the Graduate School for Islamic Studies. Please, Pak Asep.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Asep, for giving me the opportunity. I would like to address my question to Ibu Sidratun Naim, PhD, about the Nobel Prize, and also I would like to comment on the Islam, modernity, and maybe ethnic background, of the society. One thing that I would like to highlight: how do you can elaborate on the nature of Nobel Prize or laureate Nobel Prize on that given or awarded to the community, to the people in around the world, like peace, physics, chemistry. If we can consider or seen from another side of the hegemony and knowledge and power. Power, knowledge, and hegemony. So, because I think there are many or who have contributed to the people in this world, that they have made a strong or a great effort in helping people or in managing climate change, for example, or in every field of this life. And Indonesia also, that we have, you mentioned before, the Nahdlatul Ulama and Muhammadiyah. This is two Muslim based organization which has successfully promote and manage harmony and tolerance in Indonesia. But you said before that it maybe not yet reached the requirement. So the requirement itself probably was determined or measured by a certain hegemony or power. So it cannot be reached in all matters of the objectivity. It is in one thing of what is the Nobel Prize itself. And the other thing, what is exactly the impact to the people or to the party who has received this Nobel Prize, in terms of not the reputation, but I mean that people probably can go around the world to campaign or to disseminate their experience and something else, maybe organized by this organization, I mean Nobel Prize organization. It has been done or not, or no. And the other, I would like to comment on, is it because of the nature of religion or maybe doctrine that very least Nobel Prize received by Muslim people, especially on the issue of knowledge like physics or chemistry, something like that. Because of that people or Muslim people pay hardly or largely of their life to the matter of maybe mystical thing or to the something transcendental issues. So they left behind the issue of like science. It is maybe this also our our problem, because Indonesia, maybe because it is our country have already been experienced and faced with many obstacles and also issues, and after that Indonesia can successfully go through this the problem. And after that, in many experience, like for example, it is very good example when Yusuf Kala or SBY president have successfully, for example, reached the peace process at the Aceh, for example, which has already been a long time. But whether this is also can be measured or can be examined as a standard or a criteria that can be promoted for the Nobel Prize, for example, in peace issue. So again, I think that what we refer to this issue, one thing that we can, how far we can communicate and we can speak to the party or to the people who have the authority to determine whether this is reliable or liable to have a certain prize of the Nobel Prize itself. And the other, I think it is better, it is just my suggestion, maybe ideal suggestion. I think people of the Muslim can have a certain criteria or committee to have also a prize for every. I'm not knowledgeable for this. Whether you can inform me whether Muslim community has a certain community to give prize for all people in the world in terms of like physics, chemistry, maybe also peace and so on, that can not, I think, not counter actually, but to have also appreciate the achievement of people in the world to have this reputation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Asep Saifuddin Jahar, for your question and your important comments. Yeah. Please, Ibu Sidratul Naim, would you like to
Thank you,
answer
Prof.
the
Usep.
question?
I think if I follow, like the Islamic values 100%, I'm not supposed to talk that much in front of my teachers, like because all teachers in the Islamic tradition, we just need to listen and do not talk that much. Prof. Asep, I think the Saudi government, like King Fahd and then also his successor, they also provide a kind of Nobel Prize from the Muslim world, and several Indonesians already received in the area of science. I think this is one of the way the Muslim world like confront, if this Nobel Prize is not given, easily to the Muslim world because of the hegemony, the knowledge, the power that you mentioned, then we start with our own prize. Why not making our own prize and make us happy? And then the more this prize become, globally acknowledged, then they will start to understand that the Muslim also have, similar contribution. Of course, Nobel is not the only or the highest award in the world, but relatively people say yes. For example, there is a controversy because President Obama received the Peace Prize in 2009 even before he became a president. And there was a joke only because he speak, only because he make good speeches, and then in different part of the world he received the Nobel Prize. So I think this is part of the hegemony. I agree with you. For Indonesia, actually we also received the Nobel Prize in 1929. There was like a discovery on the vitamin B, berry, this disease specific for at that time for the Indonesian people, not for the Dutch, that led to penicillin, the broad spectrum of antibiotics. Of course, Christian Ekman received the Nobel Prize, and all the research was done in Indonesia, but the Dutch received the prize. I believe he has some research assistant, and they are, like the local people, the Indonesian, but at that time, they are not being recognized. This is also one of the advocate being raised by scientists around the world, that we have to acknowledge the students as well, the research assistant, not only the professor. Of course, the professor leads the research, but we also acknowledge the local people. I think in the future, this is the opportunity, Prof. And also, President Marty Ahtisaari, he also received Nobel Prize because of the peace he created and had relation to Indonesia. But Indonesia as a modern state, we have never received the Nobel Prize. Hopefully in the near future, because I'm very optimistic. And of course, receiving Nobel Prize have some values, Prof. For example, President Obama appointed Ahmed Zewel as the ambassador for science, and he sent him to all the Muslim world to give inspiration. And actually, when I was a student at ITB in 1999, I think 6 months after he received the Nobel Prize, he came to Indonesia. And I remember it was very inspirational, like his speech in ITB. I think that's the role of this Nobel laureate, to give inspiration, to convince the Muslim world that we can contribute. And also, all the prize that were given to Professor Abdul Salam, to Professor Ahmed Zewel, to Aziz Sanjad, they use it for the advancement in the country of origin. They didn't take any single cent from the award, but start, like a science center in Egypt, in Pakistan, in Turkey, and it become like an inspiration for the country. And I think that's why, the vaccine, the BioNTech, an innovation by 2 Turkish scientists, but they live in Germany. This is also another feature. We have to acknowledge all the Nobel laureates in science from the Muslim world. They spend childhood until early adulthood, like youth, in the country of origin. But then they move to modern countries like the US, the UK, and Italy for Professor Abdul Salam. That's how they grow, because again, this is about knowledge, power. Islam, when we are very advanced, because the country, the state also very advanced, and at this moment we have to acknowledge the advancement, like in terms of economic status is not in the Muslim world. So I think this is a good opportunity to send more Muslim scientists to to the US, to Europe, to Australia, Middle East, and other countries. And then it doesn't matter if they have the career in the Western world, but give the contribution also in the Muslim world, and train more scientists from the Muslim societies. And I think Professor Zender can also add, right, Professor Zender? Like your observation, how scientists from the Muslim world come to Germany or other countries.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, first of all, I have to say that I have to leave in 2 minutes to run to another appointment. But thank you for this comment. I found it very important. First of all, I also think that it's important to generate more prizes like that, because the prize, or the people who get the prizes are, as you say, very important role models. And the more diverse the role models, the more people we can attract into science, the more people we can convince about their talents in different domains. And I think a continuous exchange is, I absolutely agree, the best thing to foster, being visible to each other, to foster exchange. And one example is what Maila Rahiem and I've been doing. Maila Rahiem was a guest this summer at our university, bringing her research to the students here. And now I'm here with you, and we're not even close to any Nobel Prize, but I think this is how it happens, right? This is how exchange takes place. Our students see professors from Indonesia, from a different religion, and see that it's about the science, it's about progress, it's about accelerating positive developments, and make this a diverse experience as possible. So in this sense, I thank you very, very much for the opportunity to present our research here with you. I hope it resonated with you. I was very inspired by your contribution as well, and I hope we'll be in touch and can exchange about your ideas more. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Linsan Gender. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause to our wonderful panelists of today. And please stay for a while. So finally, we come to the end part of our presentation. Before we close, let me ask our panelists to give us their concluding remarks. We start from Professor Gender, because he is going to leave soon. And then Ibu Sidratun Naim. And at the end, we would like to invite our rector to give some concluding remarks. Please, Professor Zender.
Concluding remarks. I thought I just gave concluding remarks, but I'm happy to conclude again by thanking you all for this very, very inspiring exchange of ideas. I think this is just the start, or for me, this feels like a start of an exchange about different ideas. And I think what I've learned is that I feel that Dr. Naim presented research on a large scale level, like starting about the Nobel Prize, but also embedding it in a historical individual context, like talking about importance of childhood, parents, and so on and so forth. And I talked about mechanisms that make a great achievements possible, like simple things like asking for help. And I think putting these perspectives together was very interesting in that we both had the message that it takes simple steps to achieve great things. And that's something we often forget. So it was very nice to talk here and exchange here and get the idea that we all can achieve great things together, collaboratively, with different perspectives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Zender. And next, Ibu Sidratun Naim. Unmute dulu, Ibu.
Your microphone's still.
Sorry. Yeah, so I think I agree, collaboration, and collaboration. The Western and the Islamic world, we have many similar values, like shared values. Of course, we have differences. I don't want to say that we are equal. I think my professor told me, we are never equal. Don't say that we are equal. We are not that equal, but we share many, like values, similarities. Let's work together and, like for the advancement of humanity, science, the nature, and sustainability. So thank you very much for the committee, for Professor Zender. I think we can learn more after this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ibu Sidratun Naim. And we would like to invite Ibu Rector, Ibu Professor Amani Lubis to convey to us her concluding remark, maybe, yeah, or concluding remark, or her remark, closing remark. Okay, Ibu, please come forward, maybe over here. Yeah. No concluding remark to our panelists and our concluding.
Over there?
Yeah, please over here.
Sini aja.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, di sini.
Over there.
Yeah. Silakan. Yeah. Ibu Zender, Professor Zender.
Hello everybody in the hotel and also virtually. In our culture, we say Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Yes, I enjoy the discussion very much, and I would like to thank you, Professor Zender, and also Ibu Dr. Sidratun Naim. You have very inspiring ideas that can be discussed furthermore, and also can be considered as an insight. It's a good insight for us to consider all of these ideas have been discussed. So I have my closing remarks afterwards, but now I just want to greet all of the speakers and keynote speakers of this conference. Thank you, and someday we can see each other in in-person conference, insyaAllah. Okay, thank you, Pak Usep. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Please give applause to Ibu Rector. Yeah. So
Thank you very much.
Yeah. You are most welcome, Professor Zender and Ibu Sidratun Naim. So we would like to say thanks you very much. Yeah, thanks again to our special speakers, yeah, Ibu Sidratun Naim and Professor Lindsay Zender for the excellent and interesting talks, and to Ibu Rector for being here with us, so thereby making us feel comfortable, yeah. And also to Professor Asep and Pak Dr. Hamka, Pak Ari, Pak Salsabil, and Pak Prof Nasir, yeah, and to all of you, either in the Zoom meeting as well here. Yeah. So thank you very much for your active participation. Hopefully, the presentations and ideas we share will be beneficial for everybody. And thank you again. I think it looks like that we've covered the main item for the meeting today. And let's close our session by reciting Hamdalah. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'du, rabbi surahli sadri wa yasirli amri wahlul uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. Excellencies, distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen. Peace be upon you. Welcome again to the 5th International Colloquium on Interdisciplinary Islamic Studies 2022. It's very nice to see all of you once again, and we hope you have been enjoying yourself at the conference so far. We are very honored to have with us here this afternoon the Rector of Syarif Hidayatullah State Islamic University Jakarta, Professor Dr. Haja Amani Lubis MA, the Director of Graduate School of UIN Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta, Professor Dr. Phil Asep Saipuddin Jahar, and also the presenter and the participant of the International Colloquium of Interdisciplinary Islamic Studies 2020. Excellencies, distinguished guests, participants, ladies and gentlemen, we have had productive and inspiring time together, and this event about to come to the very end. I will hope you have found the presentation on this conference are informative and helpful. Now, we will announce award for the best paper. For the announcement of the best paper of the 5th International Colloquium on Interdisciplinary Islamic Studies 2022, kindly be invited Professor Kusmana MA PhD. Time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Best Paper Award of the 5th International Colloquium on Interdisciplinary Islamic Studies 2022. Dear authors and participants, we are pleased to announce the winners of the 5th International Colloquium on Interdisciplinary Islamic Studies 2022 Best Paper Award. 3 research articles were selected for this award. All papers will be published in Taylor and Francis with scope and quality requirements. The third prize article are paper number 64. The author, Omar Omukaba. Title, Analysis of the Utilization of Instructional Media and Technology in the Teaching and Learning of Arabic Language at University, Kenya. The second prize article, paper number 12. The author of this article is Tri Yunitasari and Karisma Paramida Silalahi. Triunita is my colleague at the Faculty of Usuluddin UIN Syarif Hidayatullah Jakarta. So I am also happy with this award. The title is Digital Archive for Justice, an Inclusive Future for Vulnerable Groups. That was the second prize, and the first prize article paper number 15. The author is Adinson, Adrianus Sihombing, Maipalinda Patra, Fredericus Jelahu, Maigahaku, and like Raskova Oktoberlina. And Adinson is a researcher from Brin. Congratulations. The title of the article, Digital Pedagogy and Freedom to Learn, Merdeka Belajar, The Paradox of Education in Jakarta, Indonesia. Congratulations to the authors of these 3 outstanding papers. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Congratulations for all the best paper and the authors. Thank you very much for Pak Kusmana PhD. Now we will close the conference. I would like to now call upon Professor Dr. Haja Amani Lubis MA to present us with the closing speech and ceremony. Professor Dr. Amani, time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wabihi nasta'in ala umurid dunya waddin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil mursalin Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. Honorable Vice Rector of Mataram State Islamic University, Honorable Director of Graduate School of Sharif Hidayatullah State Islamic University, Honorable Vice Director of Graduate School in Mataram State Islamic University, and all of the speakers, keynote speakers, presenters of this conference. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very happy and grateful to the Graduate School of UIN Sharif Hidayatullah Jakarta or Sharif Hidayatullah State Islamic University Jakarta for having this initiative of carrying out the 5th International Colloquium on Interdisciplinary Islamic Studies, abbreviated as ICIIS, the 5th in 2022 in Mataram, Lombok. And this conference is a coincidence or coincidentally held with the 2nd Graduate International Conference of Mataram State Islamic University. This conference, ICIIS, the 5th, is held also in collaboration with State Sultan Taha Saifuddin, Sultan Taha Saifuddin State Islamic University of Jambi, Graduate School of Mataram State Islamic University, and also University of Kenya. Yeah, Alhamdulillah. And I'm very grateful to all of the rectors and vice chancellor for their kind attention to this conference or our international conferences. Alhamdulillah. I believe that our 2 days of discussion have been productive for all of us. We have learned a lot from the keynote sessions given by the incredible keynote speakers, presenters, who have shared their interesting work that at this 5th International Colloquium on Interdisciplinary Islamic Studies, whose main theme is religion, education, science, and technology towards a more inclusive and sustainable future. Ladies and gentlemen, life is a valley of roses and tears, but we should be optimistic by deliberating the challenges in all walks of life and recognizing the truth provided by Islamic teachings and also universal humanistic values. We can have peaceful coexistence and progress in upholding the human civilization. Thank you again on behalf of the committee for sharing such crucial information so that we can all broaden our understanding of research on religion, education, science, and technology. I also want to thank all of the presenters and attendees, virtually or in person, who came to this conference from all over the world. Every presenter has, I'm sure, discussed how this study has been applied. I genuinely hope that by attending your speech and participating in this the conference conversation that follows, we may all help to solve the issues faced by our nations. Although the contribution may be modest, it's still worthwhile. Even though today, in the conference last day, the conference process is still ongoing. There are still a few actions that need to be taken. First, please make changes to your manuscript and in accordance with reviewers' suggestions, and then modify the template of your articles in accordance with the demands of the publishing partner where your paper will be published, such as Taylor and Francis or the European Alliance for Innovation. So I'm very proud of this progress of the international conference held by the graduate school of our university, because it is such a real output of the conference is so many papers will be published, inshallah. Finally, I want to express my gratitude to all of the organizing committee for conducting this conference and making sure everything ran successfully. I also want to express my apologies for any inconvenience you may have had while attending this meeting virtually and also in person. I hope you enjoy your time in Lombok, and we look forward to seeing you in the 6th International Colloquium on Interdisciplinary Islamic Studies of Graduate School of Sharif Hidayatullah State Islamic University. Thank you again. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much for Ibu Rektor for a very inspiring and insightful closing speech. Now, I would leave you with a quote by Stuart Brand, an author and innovative thinker, who once said, "We can see the past but not influence it. We can influence the future but not see it. Let us all be guided by all the things we have learned and heard throughout the conference and be able to see and influence our future. Thank you very much. Thank you very much and thank you very much. Jazakumullah khairan kathiran. Please accept our sincere apology for any inconveniences during the conference. Till we meet again, perhaps in the next conference, may all of you have a safe journey home. Jazakumullah khairan kathiran wa khairal jaza wa ahsanal jaza. Billahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wallahul muwafiq ila aqwamit thariq. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.